let's be real. When you don't see what you want in reality, it's friggin' frustrating. When you're not recognizing that anything's changing in your reality, the first place we all go is doubt, questioning ourselves, questioning if we're doing the right techniques. Does manifestation work? We start going into all the questions, but one particular question we don't tend to ask ourselves is what we're going to talk about today. So, if you don't see reality changing and you don't perceive reality as working for you regardless, then this video is for you. Hello, my fellow flawless, limitless, sexy, sassy, saucy HBICs. How are you on this lovely morning, afternoon, or evening? How are you all? I hope you're all doing fabulous. I hope you're all choosing to be the versions of yourself that have exactly what you want. I hope that's what you're doing. So I just want to quickly say that if you want to work with me in any way, shape, or form, all of that information is in the drop box below, including all the information about my 3 channel memberships, which if you are someone that would like to deep dive manifestation, have weekly encouragement, hearing about success stories and other tips and tricks, as well as getting yourself into the hot seat to ask me anything you want about your manifestation, that I highly encourage you to take a look at the VIP Advanced Manifestors group. That's the group that deep dives it all. That's the group that gives you access to all 3 of the channel memberships, including that being the only channel membership that has access to all of the replays, the recorded Zoom sessions. And yes, this group means you will get to hang out with me 3 times a week at minimum for an hour. So that's a total of 3+ hours every single week on top of my free content. If that interests you, drop box below. Now, let's get into it. This one's going to be a toughie. This is going to be a toughie. This is a tough love video, but it's coming from love. And the message might not be for everyone. So if you are someone that in this moment, you don't see your manifestation hanging out with you, right? It's not sitting right next to you. It's not your bank account. Maybe you're not feeling great. This message might not be specifically for you. But if you know what I talk about today is something that resonates with you, and in this video, I'm going to ask you to be 100% authentic with yourself, right? If you can't be honest with yourself, who the hell are you being honest with? Truthfully. So I ask you to be authentic today. And if you resonate with this, well, not only am I going to call you out, but I'm going to give you some tips on how to redirect this. And the very important word of the day is inconsistent. Inconsistent. Today, I'm going to break down exactly why inconsistency is having some effect on your 3D reality. And again, how to fix it, how to redirect, how to start experiencing more of what you want instead of the lack thereof. And yes, to the side, I have my notes. Yeah, I'm a note taker. You know what I'm saying? I'm a note taker. All right. So if you're ready to stop playing games, if you're ready to stop messing around and to really start experiencing your desires, then first of all, I would love for you to give this video a like, because you are going to walk away with some help, a zhuzh, and more than likely, it's going to lead to some damn movement in your reality. If you're new here, how you doing? I'm Kimberly. And yeah, I'm always this sassy. And if you're obsessed with getting what you want and getting it in a timely fashion and knowing everything there is to know about manifestation, then you and I need to be friends. Why don't you hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments below that you are a new subby? Because if I see that comment, you can guarantee you're going to hear back from me. Just saying, I want to know who my new friends are. What does manifestation or inconsistency in manifestation look like? One day you're a ball of fire feeling on top of the world. You believe you're going to have your manifestation. You feel good about it. You're walking around differently. You're carrying yourself differently. Yeah, it feels like you're on top of the world. And you know, and you don't know why you know, but you just know that you're going to have what you want. But then maybe an hour later, 2 hours later, 3 hours later, maybe even the next day, you're right back to doubting. You're right back to being to the place of, oh my God, this doesn't work. I don't see anything in my 3D reality. Nothing's changing. What am I going to do? How long do I have to do this for? Why isn't this working? Am I stupid to be manifesting this? We hop back and forth consistently. And that's not the consistency we want, right? That's the definition of inconsistent. And like I mentioned in the video the other day where I was talking about how to successfully hop timelines, some of us, we get our zhuzhes. If you're new to my channel, a zhuzh is a pump you up, a feeling good. We get our zhuzhes off of watching content. And then we blow off the most important part. And that is seriously thinking about who this new person is, this new identity, this new version of you who has your desire, right? Where you're, yeah, we'll do that later. Right? I'm just happy to hear that I'm probably going to get my manifestation. This video is making me feel good, right? Whoever you're watching, this video is making me feel good. I resonate with what the person's saying. And let me just say, side tip, if you are someone that is consistently looking for brand new people to tell you the same regurgitated information, are you really applying? Or are you just surfing the wave of a brand new coach? And maybe getting invigorated by that brand new coach. But in all seriousness, you know as well as I know that they're just telling you the same old shit that you've heard from every other person on the damn internet. And that is because the information doesn't change. This is what it is. You become who you want to be. You show up every day as that person. You embody that state of consciousness, and your reality will reflect. The only difference is some people word things a little bit different. So if you know that's you, why are you still searching? Why isn't your time spent on applying? Now, don't get me wrong. I make that content. I get it. I want the views. All YouTubers, TikTokers, Instagrammers, we want your views. So I'm not telling you got to automatically today stop watching people. I'm just saying, are you actually really applying it? Are you? Or are you being a consistent watcher, absorber, video watcher, or Instagram reader? Is that what you're doing? Because that feels better than having to take a look at your actual self. I was that person. So I can understand, but I also quickly understood I had to stop doing that. Right. Watching the occasional video because it makes me feel good, or maybe I like the person who's in the video. I like the way they talk. They put me in a good mood. So again, I'm not trying to tell you you can't watch content. I'm trying to tell you, though, that shouldn't be the dominant amount of what you're doing. You should be spending the dominant amount of part of your day as in the knowing of who you are. And I mean the version of yourself that has the desire. So that inconsistency, it's not helping you. It more than likely is hindering you. Now, I know that can be a punch in the gut, and I'm certainly not telling you that you have to be perfect 24/7. That's not this message. This is why I said in the beginning of the video that, this video might not be exactly for everyone, right? Because we are human. We are having a human experience, and we will have days where doubts come in our mind. That, to me, is perfectly normal. Normal is relative, though, right? You know yourself if you're being consistent or not. And if you know that you're inconsistent, well, here's your opportunity to make a change. If you're affirming in the morning and then spiraling by the afternoon, got to ask ourselves why. Do you keep hopping back and forth between assumptions and letting the old story, the old reality, the old beliefs, do you allow them to keep coming right back in and having control over you, having control over your mood? You have to ask yourself why. Why does it have that much power over you? Why is it so easy for you to slip right back in to your old patterns, maybe even your old habits? You see, manifestation works. It is undeniable. It works. But how it works and how it shows up in reality is completely dependent on the person manifesting. So being inconsistent is literally like trying to hover between two different states of consciousness. You've got a leg in the reality where you don't have what you want, and a leg in the reality where you do. But that's the biggest point of all of this is but you can't do that. No, you can't have a leg in one and a leg in another, because you can't inhabit one state of consciousness, excuse me, two state of consciousness at the same time. You can only ever be in one identity, one version of yourself. This video is to not necessarily encourage you to start beating yourself up if you know that you are inconsistent. That's not the message. There's no point in that. It's time to start seeing that every new present moment is an opportunity to be exactly who you want to be. Not to look back and berate yourself because you've been inconsistent. Authentically owning it is the most beautiful, amazing first step. The second step is now to start showing up as who you want to be. When we want reality to change, being is the most important part. Being who you are attempting to be. So if you're manifesting a specific person, there should be more dominant time in the state of consciousness of you having the desire, you immersing yourself in your imagination, stepping in to that version of you who is experiencing the relationship. And listen, you can be aware that the manifestation isn't sitting next to you, but still be embodying the version of you that has it, simply by knowing I'm in that reality now. I'm in the reality where I will experience the relationship. You can do that. Don't get tripped up on the logic. Why inconsistency may be having an effect on your reality is because your subconscious mind is projecting, therefore you're experiencing the reflection of what you dominantly persist in or who you dominantly show up as. So if you are dominantly persisting in the story of not having the desire or not feeling anywhere close to being the version of yourself that has the desire. And may I just say, being so attached to your 3D so that you can't decide you are the new self is an issue. I've mentioned this in countless videos. If you're waiting for evidence to show up for you to be able to accept you are the new self or you are in the new state of consciousness, you are doing the same shit you did before finding out about manifestation. You're living a life based off of your senses, based off of what you see in reality. Conscious manifestation is getting around that, is learning to trust your imagination, is learning to understand the who you really are, which is unconditioned consciousness, pure, unadulterated consciousness, aka God, aka universe, aka whatever you believe it all is. You are the I am. So who you dominantly show up to reality is exactly like you saying, I am this version of myself. I am in the reality where I don't have what I want and I don't think I'm going to get it. I am the version of myself who doesn't seem to think that I'm going to ever get the relationship or I'm ever going to get the money or that my life is ever going to change. That's who I am. That's what you're doing when you choose to inhabit the old state of consciousness or the state of consciousness that you don't see results for. And think of it as, your state of consciousness is your 3D reality, right? Your perception of reality is the truth of who you're really showing up as. So if we perceive reality from fear, that's the identity you're choosing for yourself. Now, mind you, I think it's really important to know you might get fearful thoughts. You might get doubtful thoughts. You don't have to be afraid of your thoughts, but it is what you do with your thoughts that matter. So if you think that every single time you get a doubtful or fearful thought, that's automatically kicking you out of the state and putting you into the old version of yourself, you're wrong. So maybe that's how you've been inconsistent, is you're making the assumption, if I don't feel on top of the world, I must be out of the state, because that's not necessarily true either. Remember, every single state of consciousness, aka version of yourself, aka identity, is already pre-packaged, ready-made, put together like a pretty little present for you. It's kind of like an old TV dinner like they used to make in the 70s and the 80s, the old TV dinners. Maybe they still make them, I'm not sure. Where you got the meat, the potatoes, the vegetable, and the little mini dessert. That's your state of consciousness, and every one of them shows up like that. All the beliefs that need to be a part of it, the experiences, even memories, they come together. That's why you have the freedom to choose and be any version of yourself at any given moment. It's why you have the free will to do that. They were already prepared for you, right? They were already prepared for you. God has already prepared a place for you. Infinite number of mansions. Each mansion is a state of conscious. It's a version of yourself. But you have to choose which version you're showing up as. And if you're hopping back and forth every single day, what are you telling your subconscious mind? You're telling your subconscious mind, I don't know what I want. I don't know what I want. So show me a little of both. And you could be experiencing evidence that your manifestation is absolutely happening, but you could have been inconsistent and wavering today and suddenly hop into a state where you don't think that, and then not even be able to perceive your own evidence in reality. Because when you're in a state of not having, you are seeing through a muddy filter, right? It's like wearing glasses that are completely covered with only one little prick hole on each side. You don't even notice the signs in front of you. This is why showing up every day as who you want to be is so important. So really think about that. Every state you decide to inhabit, you're putting on a pair of glasses for every single state. And you see through those glasses. So a filter. So if you're in a state of not having, that's what you're going to see for evidence in 3D. That will be your experience. And that's probably why you think nothing's happening out there. An old reference I used to make to give you an idea of what that means is like baking brownies, baking cupcakes, baking a cake. When you mix all that ingredients together and you put it in the pan and you stick it in the oven, when you're wavering, when you're going back and forth between two different states, it's really no different than opening up that damn oven door every 2 minutes and then wondering why the cake or the cupcakes aren't baking, at least not in the time frame you'd prefer. And there's a pretty good chance that they're gonna bake pretty damn half-assed. That's why we don't have to check reality per se. We won't miss it. We won't be able to miss our manifestation, especially if we're inhabiting the version of self we want to be. But if you're always staring at reality, looking for the evidence first, and if you don't see anything, you decide, I am that self. I am the self that has nothing. I am the self that sees nothing different. You are the person that is trying to bake the cake, but you're not even checking on it every couple of minutes. You're keeping the door open to the oven and wondering why nothing's changing. See how silly that sounds? This is why we close that oven door and we set a timer and walk away. Maybe we check on it just once to make sure it's not burning, but we set a relatively normal timer, don't we? We go back to inhabiting who we want to be, and we don't keep checking. Another example Neville Goddard used is, it's like planting some seeds. Are you going to dig them seeds up every other day and see if they've, grown anything? No, you keep watering those seeds though, don't you? That's watering them seeds is you returning to the state of consciousness that you want to be in, the one where you get what you want. That's watering the seeds. But waiting to check on 3D reality. And if you don't see what you want, you make the assumption it's not working for you. You allow it to bother you. That's just like digging up the seeds every damn 10 minutes. Same thing. See, the point of conscious manifestation is to break out of the habit of living by the senses. So what you're letting bother you, right? Your idea of evidence that's not here, you're letting that bother you. You're letting that get in the way of whether you decide to be your new self, to be in that new state of consciousness. We don't always, actually, we pretty much never have the full picture of how things are being rearranged for us. We don't have that vision. We don't have that view. So you can't rely on your senses, which is why the idea is to break out of the habit of needing it. So you're being inconsistent. Some tips on how to get consistent. I highly suggest that first thing in the morning, you make a decision that you are now in your desired reality or the ideal reality. You are the new self. Try to remember, manifestation isn't about trying. Manifestation is about deciding and standing in it, being. So you're deciding and you're committing. You're committing to this. This is something that you're going to show up for yourself every damn day. First thing in the morning, you decide who you are. The first time you notice that you are listening to thoughts that say the opposite and you're allowing yourself to sit into them, you are going to make a new decision. You're going to let yourself know that no, that's something my old self would do. I refuse to do that anymore. I refuse to listen to thoughts that tell me the opposite of what I want. I refuse it. I am committed to being my new self. Number two, you're not going to check 3D. We're not going to go out here and check the 3D to see if we notice any changes. We're definitely not doing that. That's a biggie. We're not doing that. We don't need to do that. The only thing ever required of us is to be, is to embody, is to understand that you are the I am. And what words you put after that statement, I am, is determining who you are. So you're committing to doing this. You're showing up every day, committing to be your new self. You're going to stay aware. And by staying aware, I mean connecting with the I am as often as possible or as often as necessary. And all I mean by that is when you decide to get into observer mode, get into the I am, understanding that you can separate from your own identity and just be I am. So you can see clearly that the thoughts you're experiencing, they come after being. The I am comes first. The seer behind the eyes comes first, then thought. And you'll notice thoughts can, if you allow them, really just float by. And a new thought comes in. And every time you stay willing to not entertain thoughts that reflect your old story, think of that as a win. Think of that as you really stepping into the power of the I am, the power of God, the power of the universe. You're utilizing that power every time you decide not to entertain old thoughts. Let them float by. I am not encouraging you to get into a fight with your thoughts. I'm encouraging you to realize thoughts are just there. They are just there. And they don't hold meaning until you decide they do. So if you find thoughts are coming in that upset you, nope, I am my new self. I am in the reality where I experience my desires. I am in my ideal reality now. Everything is unfolding perfectly for me. Everything is working out for me. Even if I can't see it, even if I don't believe it, everything is working out for me. because it has to. So you're staying clear. The more you're in observer mode, Vadim Zeland would refer to it as the keeper. It's just having that mental alertness, that mental awareness of what thoughts am I listening to? What thoughts am I really engaging with? This is how you build up the new habit to not listen and believe every shit thought that comes into our mind. It's how you build that muscle of your I amness. Kind of going along with we're not going to be checking 3D anymore. We're certainly not going to partake in any habits that belong to the old self. So therefore, we're not letting the 3D dictate to us what state we're in. We are not allowing the 3D to dictate to us who we are. Remember, when we're not experiencing exactly what we want in reality, that is the 3D reflecting old assumptions, the old version of you, the old state of consciousness, or Neville Goddard would say a forgotten state of consciousness. Try to remember that every single time you react to something in the 3D shitty, from fear, you're reinforcing that old version of you. You're reinforcing that state. You're telling your subconscious mind, yes, I believe this terrible thing is true. This is who I believe I am. This seems real to me. This seems more believable. I want more of this. That's what you're doing. So think about that. Every time we show up and react like our old self would and partake into the habits that our old self would, we are solidifying that old reality. We're anchoring ourselves to the old reality, to the old you. And you have the word and the authority of God to do something different, to choose differently. So again, we're staying aware and we're not letting that 3D control us anymore. What I also think is helpful is doing a check-in every single day. Every day. This is why I start my day telling myself who I am. And the moment I notice I'm not feeling that great, something's bothering me, and I don't mean like an actual health not feeling good. I mean a mental not feeling good. I check in with myself and I highly suggest you do the same. Because more than likely, in that moment, you are either listening to unfavorable thoughts, thoughts from the old story, or you are letting 3D show you something and you're giving it the meaning that you're not going to get what you want. Something along those lines. Think about it. Every time you don't feel good about your manifestation, you are either listening to a logical, fearful thought or you are perceiving reality through logic and to not your benefit. You don't ever feel bad when you think, oh my God, I'm totally going to get this. Oh my God, of course I have my manifestation. Of course I'm going to get this. Of course this is going to happen. That doesn't make us feel bad. That makes us feel good. That's the indicator. I'm clearly focused on something that is not benefiting me. I choose differently because I'm in charge of my mental diet. I have the authority of God to say no to a thought I don't like. You are reinforcing to your subconscious mind, this is not who I am anymore, and I don't want any more of this. So, yes, every single day, check in with yourself. Every time you notice that you're mentally not feeling great, who am I being right now? What am I believing about myself? What am I believing about reality in this moment that I'm starting to not feel good about what I'm manifesting? Who am I? And if you can't answer that question as I am the version of self who has exactly what I want or whatever it is you're manifesting, if you can't authentically answer that, then you need to return to that decision right in that very moment. Until that new state feels like your normal, until that new state is so comfortable to you, I would be doing these daily check-ins. Actually, I would be doing these check-ins every time I notice I'm not mentally agreeing with my manifestation, right? The idea here is to live in the wish fulfilled. Live as if it's done. Live in the end. Those statements, all they really mean is you are showing up as the new identity. You are showing up as him or her, the him or her that you want to be. That's what it means. It doesn't mean you have to put out an extra table setting for your specific person or leave room in your closet, unless, of course, that feels good to you. If it feels good, do whatever you want. But I'm not telling you have to do those physical actions. I'm saying that you are viewing reality, knowing it's the new reality. Knowing, yeah, I am who I say I am. I am my new self. That's what it means to live in the end. To know my manifestation is done. It was done the day I decided I was going to have it, because I wouldn't even be able to think about my manifestation if it didn't already exist in the infinite or in the ether or in the universe or hanging out in God's place. Okay? It wouldn't exist. You wouldn't be able to think it if it didn't already have a place in the quantum. Listen, manifestation is simple. And I know that that particular sentence can be infuriating or triggering, but it's only infuriating or triggering when you are listening to fear, when you are listening to doubt, or you are babysitting linear time. That's when that particular sentence feels frustrating. And I get it, because it used to frustrate me. But truthfully, that's because I was always focused on what I didn't have in 3D. And I was always focused on the fear. I had to break out of that habit to be able to see more clearly that, yeah, everything actually really was working for me. Everything really was leading me to my desire. But you can't have that vision. You can't see that necessarily that clear when you're always in the state of not having. Manifestation is simple, but it does require consistency. It requires consistency, discipline, and determination, and not being attached to the 3D. But I've already spoke to you about why we've got to not be staring out here. We've got to look at our reality as fast as possible as it is unfolding to exactly what I want. Everything is working out for me. Everything is. Decide who you are and stay in that state as much as possible. Listen, it is normal to fall out of the state. So you don't need to have a panic attack every time you realize, oh my God, I'm out of the state. Okay, fine. Return to your decision. That's what matters. Not you beating yourself up, like I said earlier in the video. So again, we are not required to be perfect. But if you know you're being inconsistent and you know you waver a lot, you've got to be honest with yourself. Why? Why? And as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to say it again. I did say it in another video, but if you are blowing off deciding who or what this new state of consciousness is, this new version of yourself is, if you're blowing it off, if you're putting that aside to later, please understand then how are you deciding who you are? How are you being in the state of you having what you want when you don't even know clearly what that is? You're not. And that is definitely inconsistent. And let me just say, kind of damn stupid. Think about that. You don't know officially or clearly who you want to be or what new state is, but then you're frustrated because reality is reflecting you. Does that make sense? I hope it does. I know that was harsh, but it needs to be said. If you don't have a clear decision of who your new self is, and by clear decision, I just mean clearly knowing what you're manifesting and what you want to experience from this manifestation. If you can't answer that question, so therefore you don't know which version of self you're trying to be, how are you shocked and dismayed that reality is showing you nothing or showing you inconsistent evidence? You haven't given the instructions. Defining who that version of you is, defining that state of consciousness is the damn instructions that you're giving to the subconscious mind. The instructions that you hand out to God, to the universe, to higher self, whatever you believe is more than just who you are. You're giving messy instructions. You're giving half-ass information, but then being mad because you're not seeing what you want. You haven't decided what you want. Really? You're half-assing it, so you're getting half-assed results. Decide and define who you want to be, how you want to feel about your manifestation, how, if it's a relationship, how you want to be treated, how you feel as being the partner in that relationship. Get as clear as possible. Again, if you're manifesting something like a home, you don't need to have the exact address of the home, but if you do, that's awesome. You don't have to have the exact address. But you do have to have a kind of a roundabout idea of what you're interested in, of what feels good to you, and what it would feel like to be a homeowner. See what I'm saying? If you're manifesting money, you don't necessarily have to have an exact dollar amount, but you do need to know clearly who is me that has the money. What would it feel like to be her? I know I'm being super sassy and sarcastic, but I just think, come on now. How can you be frustrated or how can you judge reality and say this isn't working when you haven't done your part? You haven't done your part yet. Okay? Let's think about that. Doesn't make sense. It's like deciding that you're going to have fried chicken and mashed potatoes for dinner, but you're pissed because none of the ingredients are in the house. You haven't done your part. You haven't shown up with the ingredients. You can't get mad because there's no fried chicken when you never bought the thing to make the fried chicken. See what I mean? Same idea. Or going with that cake analogy. You want a birthday cake and you want the pleasure of making that birthday cake, but you never bought the ingredients to make the birthday cake. You're just pissed because it's not here. Does that make sense? It doesn't make sense. You gotta know who you are, who you want to be. You gotta know that before we can experience it. Okay? So if you are done wavering, if you are done being inconsistent, please let me know in the comments below. Let me know that you've recommitted to being exactly who you want to be, because it's all it takes. It just needs your commitment. It needs your consistency. And I'm telling you, it's undeniable. You will experience your desire. But that's your part in the equation, is showing up as this new version of yourself. So on that note, again, if you got anything out of this video, I would really appreciate you giving this video a like. And thank you to all of you that liked the video even before you fully watched it. I do appreciate that. I do see it. I do notice it when I'm a video go live. And I really appreciate you guys who do that. You are supporting me in the most amazing ways. And I just want you to know it doesn't go unnoticed. So thank you very much for that. I would appreciate if you did give the video a like today. And subscribe if you are new. Come on, let's be friends as we are busy getting what we want in reality. So on that note, I'll see you tomorrow.